Good morning, Lakeland. My name is Ben. If you are able, would you please stand and worship with us this morning?
Great Though the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. God, from age to age, though this earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Your history can prove there's nothing you can't do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast. And let my heart learn as you speak the word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me.
don't know where to start. All I have is on the table. I won't hold back a single part. Sometimes I cannot find the language. Sometimes I'm at a loss for words. And I just want to give you something to let you know that you're still first. I worship you. Life is full of many seasons. I felt the shadow and the sun. Through the feast and through the famine, this is my song in every word. I worship you. Yes, I worship you. You're the one I love. You're the one I choose. And I worship you. If all you ever wanted was my heart, here it is, here it is. I lay it all on the altar. If all you ever wanted was my heart, here it is, here it is. I lay it all on the altar. If all you ever wanted was my heart, then here it is, here it is. Lay it all on the altar. If all you ever wanted was my heart, then here it is, here it is. Lay it all on the altar. And I worship you. And I worship you. You're the one I love. You're the one I choose. And I worship you. You're the one I love. You're the one I choose. So I worship you. Lakeland, thanks for worshiping with us this morning. You can have a seat.
Hey Lakeland, here are a few exciting updates. On August 25th, we'll be having church in the park, so join us at Flatiron Park in Lake Geneva at 10 a.m. for some worship and a great message. We won't have the Thursday night service that week, so we hope to see you all there on Sunday at 10 a.m. Then, from March 30th to April 5th, Lakeland is heading on a mission trip to El Ayudante in Honduras. The people that are running El Ayudante are Tristan and Beth Mohagan. They're ministry partners with us at Lakeland. And wow, this couple is amazing. Their heart for the people of Honduras in the Comayagua area is unbelievable. The things that they do. They have a medical ministry. They have done water filtration. They've helped families to get married. Because in that culture, a lot of people don't get married because it costs too much to do so. And it's amazing to see chains be broken in these families and in this culture. If you're interested in joining us, you can fill out the application by scanning the QR code or visit the missions wall after the service to chat with Richard and Matt, who are leading that trip. The last day for registration is August 15th, so sign up now. And with everything that's been going on in our nation, we feel called to start praying for our country, our leadership, and our people. So please join us every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. in the digital room for United in Prayer. We would love to have you join us. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Greetings, Lakeland. And now it's at this point of the service where we just take some time and we're going to reflect on a couple things. First, the blue connection cards that are there in the seat in front of you. Yes, we bring it up every week, but I'll tell you what never gets old here at Lakeland, and that's wins and prayer requests. We have a team of people that are ready to pray for you, and with all the needs that you have, we want to take some time and take that very seriously. And also the wins. You know, you've seen a number of videos here of what God's doing in people's lives, and it's because you guys are telling us about the wins, what God's doing in your lives, that we have that opportunity. So we want you to just take that seriously, and please fill out that connection card in front of you. And also in terms of us right now passing the buckets. You know, Paul reached out to the Corinthian church and he said it's because of God's great resources that we have this opportunity to be generous and to be grateful for all that we've had. And so I'm just so grateful as someone who personally, I actually give online. I'm just grateful for this time for us as a church to be able to spend time in worship and actually take our giving as a form of worship. And I also want to get geared up here for this summer jam that we have going right now, the greatest hits. So get ready for our next speaker as it's coming your way.
Hey, Lakeland, are you ready for an amazing moment? Because Jason Ewart is going to be preaching today. You might be going, who's Jason? Jason's the senior pastor at Hope Church out in Oconomowoc. They're actually working toward even another campus. They're expanding. Here's some things that you need to know about Jason. Jason is smart, he's really brilliant, he's fun-loving, and he is also the guy who led, in my opinion and to my knowledge, one of the largest portable churches for the longest length of time of anyone that I've ever known. They grew Hope to a place where they finally built their building, and they have been growing like gangbusters ever since. We've been blessed to be able to partner with them over the years. In fact, they stole one of our former staff members. No, we sent him with our blessings. If you remember Ty, who was helping with our youth ministry and guest services, Ty is now their full-time youth pastor, and we know he's knocking it out of the park over there. Jason is gonna bring the word, and he'll probably do it without notes because the guy's brilliant. So would you give it up right now for Jason?
Who needs walk-up music when you have Josh as your hype guy? This is fantastic. I mean, first of all, they're playing Rage Against the Machine for me, and I thought, this crowd's gonna be lit, but then, I wonder if he'll make those for my wife. I can just play his videos. Honey, Josh says I'm brilliant. Well, thanks for having me, Lakeland Church. It is so good to be with you guys today, and there's two very specific reasons why I am personally very honored to be here today. The first is because of what Josh said about me and our church. We were a portable church for a long time. Portable church means we did not have any facilities, no building of our own. We would rent space wherever we could. We had to move a few times just to have services along the way. And there was a time about 5 years ago when I was just exhausted. I was grinding for a long time. I was tired. So I put the flare out to some southeastern Wisconsin pastors who are friends of mine. I said, hey, can anyone take any Sunday? I just need some time off. I need to catch my breath. Josh was the first pastor to say, absolutely, I'll be there. I'll help. And here's what you need to understand about his decision to do this. We were meeting in a middle school gymnasium. It smelled like middle school gymnasium. We were maybe a third of Lakeland's size, and none of that mattered to Josh. There was no glory in this for him. He just wanted to help out because you already know that Josh loves Lakeland Church. I can testify, Josh loves the church, okay? He just loves God's people. He loves the church, and that's why I am so honored today to return the favor while he takes some Sundays off to recharge his batteries for the next season at Lakeland Church, because I believe it's going to be a big season that God has for you guys. So I'm honored to return the favor to him and to be here with you guys. And the second reason why I'm excited to be here today is because I'm going to share an idea that is going to be a brand new idea for most of us. If you have ever looked out at our world and wondered what God is doing about the problem of suffering in our world, if you've ever looked out at our world and wondered what God is doing about the problem of evil in our world, you will not be able to answer that question on an emotional level. You will not be able to answer that question in a way that is emotionally satisfying, that resonates with our souls, apart from studying and understanding the miracles of Jesus. Now, the word miracle is a word that has a wide lexical range. Some people might call it a miracle if they walk away from a car accident uninjured. Other people would call it a miracle if they can find their car keys on Monday morning after searching for 20 minutes. Other people use the word miracle to talk about an improbable victory for their sports teams. Are there any Chicago Cubs fans here this morning? Any Cubs fans? Okay, thank you. If the Cubs win the NL Central this year, that would be a miracle. Okay, that joke kills at my church. Are we too close to Chicago here? I don't know the audience, sorry. But using this idea of the miracle, here's a definition we might use. A miracle is an extremely outstanding or unusual event, thing, or accomplishment. So someone might call nuclear energy a miracle of modern physics, or we might talk about the miracle of childbirth. But when we talk about the miracles of Jesus, of course, we are not simply talking about unusual events or extraordinary events. We're talking about something that has an element of divine power to it. And here's a more technical definition of the word miracle. A miracle is an extraordinary divine intervention that circumvents the natural order. Our universe is governed by natural laws. These laws are studied by science so that we understand how the universe works. But a miracle is when something happens that circumvents or disrupts the way that things are supposed to naturally work. And this definition, this understanding of a miracle is the reason why some of us have a hard time taking the Bible seriously. Miracle skepticism first grew up in our world in the 17th century in Europe through the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was a worldview that was governed by rational thought, and it believed that anything there is to learn must be learned through scientific observation and empirical evidence. Thomas Jefferson was a product of the Enlightenment, and he famously, or perhaps infamously, took a razor blade and scissors to his copy of the New Testament. He cut out everything from the New Testament that was miraculous, and what was left he retitled The Life and Philosophy of Jesus of Nazareth. Still others of us, we have adopted this Enlightenment worldview in our Western world. The traces of it are still all over the place. And it leads us to make declarations about miracles, declarations like this one. Science has proved there's no such thing as miracles. But there's one problem with this statement. This statement cannot be scientifically proven. You see, science is the tool we have to observe the natural world, to observe natural causes and natural effects. Miracles, by their definition, do not have a natural cause. They have a supernatural cause. Using science to measure or observe or prove or disprove miracles is like an old episode of the show, I Love Lucy. Did anybody watch that show, I Love Lucy? Do you remember that show? Old black and white show. Brilliant writing. It's worth watching for that reason alone. But there's an episode where Lucy lost her earrings in the bedroom, but she looks for them in the living room. Ricky walks in and he says, you lost your earrings in the living room? She said, no, I lost them in the bedroom, but the light is better out here. Using science to discuss miracles is like Lucy looking for her earrings in the living room. Miracles do not lie in the realm of science. They lie in the realm of philosophy or perhaps theology, but not in science. But for others of us, studying the miracles of Jesus is a hang-up, not for a rational reason or a scientific reason, but simply for a personal or an emotional reason. Because there is a time in your life when you desperately needed a miracle. There was a time in your life where you needed God to come through for you in a miraculous way, and you prayed, and you prayed, and you prayed, and there was no miracle. And this didn't just cause you to lose confidence that miracles can happen. This caused you to lose faith in God. But here's my question today. What if our definition of a miracle is not aligned with God's definition of a miracle? What if our understanding of the purpose of a miracle is not aligned with God's understanding of the purpose of a miracle? We assume the purpose of a miracle is to improve the circumstances of somebody's life. Yet, as you study the miracles of Jesus, what you observe is not all of them improved the circumstances of someone's life. And in those in which it did, it was almost described as the byproduct of something more important that was happening in God's purpose and God's kingdom in that moment. And neither were the miracles of Jesus raw displays of power simply to show his glory. Never once did Jesus say, hey fellas, see that hill over there? You want me to turn it into an active volcano? Watch this. Okay, Jesus never, I would have done that. Jesus never used his miracles as raw displays of power. Instead, we see that each and every one of his miracles had a purpose. And that purpose is what I want to share with you today. And here's the big idea. Miracles are not a suspension of the natural order, but a restoration of the natural order. In each and every miracle of Jesus that you will read in the Bible, you will see Jesus reaching into a world that has become broken by sin, and he takes one facet of our broken world and he restores it to the way that God intended for nature to work in the beginning. And in it, we see a snapshot. We see a picture of the future, of what life will look like, of what nature will look like when Jesus returns. He returns in glory, and he brings all of heaven down to earth, and we live in resurrected life with him in the presence of the glory of God. In every miracle, we see what is waiting for us in the future when we live life in God's presence. Every single miracle is an answer to the question that shows us what God has done about the problem of evil in our world and what Jesus will do about the problem of evil in our world. And today, I want to show you an example of how this works by studying the first miracle of Jesus. Now, if you were making up the story of Jesus, you would never have invented the first miracle as his actual first miracle. If you're new to the Bible, the first miracle of Jesus was this. He was at a wedding reception. They ran out of alcohol. He decided to make 150 gallons of wine out of water in order to prevent a party from going flat. Calling card inaugural miracle for Jesus of Nazareth. Why would he choose that one for his first miracle? Today, we're going to see why. It's because he was giving us a snapshot. He was giving us a snapshot of how God intended for our world to work and look. And he's giving us a snapshot of what life will look like when he returns on the last day. In this miracle, if you know nothing else about Jesus, you find everything you need to know about him, who he is, what he came to do, and how he is going to bring the ultimate party. Now, I want to get started at the very end of the story. We're going to be in John's biography of the life of Jesus today. If you want to read it at home, it's in chapter 2 because it's pretty early in the action. But I'm going to start at the last verse of John's account of what happened on this day because John tells us all of this was the purpose of the miracle in verse 11. It says this, the first of his miraculous signs Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. John called this a sign. See, a sign tells us what's coming up that you can't quite see it yet. Okay, if you're driving down the road, there might be a sign with a curve on it, and it says 45 miles per hour. You can't see it yet, but there's a dangerous curve coming. Or it might say your exit is in 1 mile or Indianapolis is in 60 miles. A sign says, we're not there yet. You can't see it yet, but this is a warning or just a heads up. This is what's coming next that we cannot see. John says the purpose of this miracle of turning water into wine was to give us a picture, a heads up. There's something coming yet. You can't see it yet, but you should be aware this is what's right around the corner for you. So let's pick up the story at the beginning. In John chapter 2, verse 1, here's what we're told. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. Now, Cana, it was the next village over from Nazareth where Jesus grew up. So if Mary, his mother, was there, he was there. This might have been a family connection. His disciples were invited. Many of them also grew up in that region. So it's probably someone they've known for a long time. They know the couple, so they're all invited to this wedding. Verse 3. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, they have no more wine. Now, in those days, it was the groom's family. It was their obligation to provide the food and the wine for the festivities. Now, in our day and age, in our culture, it's the rules are kind of out the window, but a wedding reception is about an 8-hour-long party. Do you know what the average cost of a wedding reception is today, by the way? $35,000 to throw an 8-hour-long party. In those days, a wedding reception lasted anywhere from 5 to 7 days. Okay, so at this party, somehow Mary finds out they've run out of wine. They have no more wine. And look at how Jesus responds. Dear woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied. Mary replied, because my glass is empty. Okay, I made that part up. That verse I made up. It's not actually in the Bible. We can edit that out before Josh gets back, right? All right, Mary comes to Jesus. She says, hey, they have no more wine. Jesus responds in a way that's really gruff. Because our translation says, dear woman, why do you involve me? But if you read this in the original language in which John wrote, the word dear is not in there. He doesn't say, dear woman. He doesn't say, oh, mother. He says, woman, why do you involve me? Woman, what does this have to do with me? Why is this my problem? Now, that seems kind of harsh, doesn't it? What's going on here? Well, there are enough clues, if we pay attention to the text, to find out what's on Jesus' mind and what's going on here. First is this. Think of the context. Think of the setting for where Jesus is at. He's 30 years old. He's at a wedding, and he's single. Have you ever attended a wedding as a single person without a date? Have you ever attended a wedding as a single person without a date as the last of your high school or college friends are getting married off? Have you ever attended a wedding as someone who is divorced or widowed? What are you thinking about at that wedding? You're thinking, will I ever find someone Will anyone ever look at me the way those two look at each other? Will I ever fall into someone's arms? Will I ever have a grand march? Will all eyes be on me as people celebrate the love that I have? Now, you can imagine Jesus being 30 years old at this wedding, and every single grandmother in attendance says, Jesus, why don't you settle down with a nice Jewish girl? Now, some of you are saying, come on, Jason, we're talking about Jesus. We're talking about the Son of God here. He wouldn't have been thinking about that. Are you so sure? Throughout the Old Testament scriptures, the part written before Jesus came along, God uses several metaphors to describe how he wants to relate to his people. For example, he said that he's a king, meaning we're subjects. He said he's a shepherd, meaning we're sheep. But there was one metaphor he used over and over and over again. Namely, God said that he is a groom, and he wants to relate to his people as a groom relates to his bride. And what we see early in the ministry of Jesus is that he had already taken this idea into his own consciousness. For example, one time, the Pharisees, the religious elite of the day, they criticized Jesus. They said, Jesus, our disciples fast. Your disciples do not fast. Aren't they spiritual? Aren't you discipling them? Aren't you a good rabbi? Look at how Jesus responded in Mark chapter 2. He said, how can the guests of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? He's saying, I'm the groom. I've arrived for the wedding. How can they be sad? How can they fast when it's time to celebrate a wedding? In fact, this idea permeated the imagination of God's people in that century. John the Baptist, who was the forerunner of Christ, told people the Messiah is coming. And when he saw Jesus, he said, look, there's the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Go follow him. And the people did. But there are a few disciples of John's who were loyal to him, and they said, Rabbi, everyone's gone after Jesus. They've abandoned you. Here's what John responded to that. He said, the bride belongs to the bridegroom. The bride, the people, belong to the bridegroom. That's Jesus. He continues, the friend who attends the bridegroom, that's me, John said, waits and listens for him and is full of joy when he hears the bridegroom's voice. John the Baptist said, I'm one of the groomsmen. They're not here for me. He's the groom. He's the groom. So Jesus already had this idea in his mind that he is the one who is the groom of God's people. God wants to relate to his people as a groom relates to his bride. And we see this confirmed in what he says next. Mary said, they have no more wine. Jesus said, woman, why do you involve me? And here's what he said in the next verse. My time has not yet come. My time has not yet come. Now, when we first read this, here's what we think. We think Jesus is saying, Mom, I don't want to do a miracle. Okay, fine. Okay, I'm sorry. We can't treat Jesus that way. If you're a Christian, we believe he's the Son of God. If you're not a Christian, he's still the greatest movement leader in the history of the world. Everything he did was intentional. And by the way, spoiler alert, he turned around and did the miracle. So he's not talking about doing a miracle when he's talking about this. He's not saying it's not time to do a miracle and then he does the miracle. But instead, the word time, literally translated into English is hour. The hour is a technical term used throughout John's biography of the life of Jesus. And every time John uses that word, it is always used to reference the hour of Jesus' crucifixion. Here's an example in John 13. It says, Jesus knew that the time or the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Jesus is sitting at this wedding reception. The people around him are drinking the cup of joy, yet Jesus alone is drinking the cup of sorrow, knowing that if he will ever have his people, if he will ever have his bride, if we will ever fall into his arms, the dowry he must pay is his own life on the cross. And then he reinforces this idea in the way that he performs the miracle. Let's see what comes next. Verse 5, his mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. I love the faith of Mary. You'll notice she never demanded anything. She never even asked anything. She just notified him, and she told the servants, hey, whatever he says, just do it. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Now, that ceremonial washing is an important idea that we don't have an equivalent for today. In the first century world, when Jews would go to the temple, they would not enter the temple of God without first giving their hands a ceremonial washing. They'd pour water on their hands from elbow to fingertip. It wasn't really about dirt or bacteria. It was a symbol. It was a symbol that said, we are an unclean people. We live in an unclean world. We must be cleansed if we were going to enter the presence of God. Furthermore, when they would sit down to eat a meal, they would give their hands a ceremonial washing. It was their way of saying, we have unclean hands, and we have touched and interacted with unclean things in our world. If we use our unclean hands to touch food, that will defile us. We must give our hands a ceremonial washing, all of which was symbolic to say, we must be cleansed to be in God's presence. Jesus, when he decides he's going to make wine, the most logical thing for him to do would be to say to the servants, okay, go get all the empty pitchers, any empty wine barrels, any empty glasses, and let's fill those up with water, but he doesn't do that. Instead, he says, I want you to use the jars we use for our hand washing. Now, here's the equivalent to our culture. Let's say you go to a friend's house, and your friend says, can I get you a glass of wine? And you say, sure, why not? Your friend says, be right back, grabs the glass, goes to the bathroom where the sink is stopped up and filled with wine, scoops the wine out of the sink and hands it to you. And just as you're thinking of changing your order to water, you're afraid of where your friend will draw the water from. The point is, we would never use a sink for wine, and they would never use the jars for washing their hands ceremonially for wine or drinking either. It was deliberate. Jesus chose the jars because he is saying, if I'm going to have my bride, if I'm going to have my people, I must first cleanse her. So they fill the jars with water. Verse 7. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. Now the master of the banquet, his job was kind of like half wedding coordinator, half DJ. He planned the party and then he kept the party going. The problem was his party's about to fall flat and he is oblivious to the problem. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, now check this out. Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink, but you have saved the best. You have saved the best till now. You have saved the best for the end. This, the first of his miraculous signs, Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. So what do we learn from this first miracle of Jesus, the changing of water into wine? Here's the first thing we learn. The Christian faith in Jesus, is not a subscription to a set of doctrinal beliefs. It is an invitation to experience the goodness and the joy and the love of God. It is an invitation to experience the celebration of God. The Old Testament prophet Isaiah described it this way in Isaiah 25. On this mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best meats and the finest of wines. Isaiah says, you want to know what life is like in God's kingdom? It's the best party, the best food, the best drink, the best friends, the best people, and the best host. That's what we're waiting for in our future. This is why King David in Psalm 34 wrote, to taste and see that the Lord is good. If someone's reading the psalm, they already believe that the Lord is good. David says, no. I want you to taste it. I want you to see it. I want you to experience it. Here's what he's inviting us into. And it's hard to find a parallel to this. Imagine that you have a friend who was born blind. And your friend asks you one day, can you explain the difference to me between red and blue? I've been hearing about these colors. Is it like the difference between hearing a flute and a guitar? No. I'm sorry, I can't really explain the difference. You can't borrow from one of the other four senses to explain what you're missing in this sense. If you have a friend who was born without a sense of smell, and they say, tell me about this bacon. What is this cooking bacon smell you talk about? And you're like, I don't know, it smells like heaven. I don't know how to describe it to you. I can't borrow from any of the other four senses to describe what you're missing in this one. In the same way, the invitation to Christianity is an invitation, to experience the love of God, to come alive in his presence, to experience his joy, to lean into his goodness. It's not simply an invitation to believe something, but to come alive in him, to experience his love. To which we say, how do I lean into that? How do I receive the Spirit? First of all, I want to be real honest. You can't program God. You can't say, do these 3 steps, and then all of a sudden you can smell bacon. It's not quite like that, okay? But in this miracle, we do see 3 critical things that as you lean into these, you will begin to experience a richer measure of God's joy and love in your life. And the first thing we see in this story is this. Number 1, admit that you are empty. Mary came to Jesus and said, Jesus, we're empty. We need help. We're out. The first step in experiencing God's goodness, friends, is to come to God, to come to Jesus and admit, Jesus, I'm empty. I'm out. I have guilt from my past and I can't deal with that. I have a meaninglessness in my life that I cannot satiate. I lie awake at night and I ruminate about the dumb things I have done that I cannot go back and fix. Leaning into the goodness of God begins with an honest admission. God, I'm empty. God, I'm out. I need you to fill me up. Second thing we see in this story is this. Receive his love as a gift. The groom and the master of the banquet are responsible for throwing this party, and they utterly fail. It was only because Jesus stepped in and said, I will provide what you lack because he is good, that their party kept going. Here's what the Christian message is. When Jesus went to the cross, he went to the cross in your place. He went to the cross saying, I will bear your guilt. I will bear your shame. I will bear your sin, your failure before God. I will take your place. And in exchange, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you my righteousness, my perfect life, my holiness, my goodness. Theologians call this the great exchange. That's what Jesus did. He said, I want to trade places. I'll take the blame. You take the credit. And that's the third thing we see in this story. Jesus did all the work. You get all the credit. The master of the banquet goes to the groom and said, wow, you've saved the best for last. And he says, I did? Awesome. He has no idea, but he gets all the credit. Listen, when you lean into Jesus in faith, he does all the work. You get all the credit. See, when Jesus was baptized, when he came up out of the water, the voice of the Father spoke and said, this is my Son whom I love. With him I am well pleased. When you lean into Jesus in faith, when you're baptized into his name, God's voice speaks over you. You are my Son whom I love. You are my daughter whom I love. With you I am well pleased. Jesus did all the work. You get all the credit. You know, when I read this story of Jesus turning water into wine, I can't help but think of one of my favorite things that I get to do as a pastor, which is I get to officiate dozens of weddings. And that's just fun for me. And part of the reason why it's fun is because I have the best seat in the house, okay? Like if you're at a wedding, you're like trying to see around some lady's hat, get a glimpse of the bride. I'm like, they're right there next to me. I'm so close. I can see the groom's heart beating underneath his shirt, okay? That's how close I get to stand. But my favorite part of every wedding I officiate is right at the beginning, when the wedding party walks in and the groom is standing right there next to me and he is looking down the aisle waiting for his bride to appear. He is watching and he is waiting and he is waiting and he is waiting until that moment happens when finally she appears. And when she appears, wow. Now, I don't know who invented the wedding dress, but they killed it with that thing, all right? Because last night at the reception, this was an ordinary looking woman, but when she is wearing that wedding dress and she appears at the back of the aisle, she is radiant. She is stunning. And when he sees his bride, it's all he can do to constrain himself so he doesn't run down that aisle and sweep her up in his arms. And I am telling you, they won't admit this, the doodliest of dudes tears up when he sees his bride begin to walk down the aisle. And Jesus looks at us, he looks at you, and he says, that's how I feel about you. And we say, but Jesus, I'm not beautiful, I'm not lovely, I'm not radiant. Jesus said, you don't understand. I bought you the wedding dress. It's my love that makes you beautiful to me. It's my love that makes you radiant to me. And he wants to take you in his arms like that groom does his bride when he sees her at the end of the aisle. That's what Jesus is teaching us in this story, that the best is coming at the end, and we will fully experience the goodness and love and delight and joy of God. So here's what this means for a few different groups of us. First of all, for those of us who have not put our faith in Jesus, your party is about to fall flat. Admit that you're empty. Receive his love as a gift. Jesus did all the work. You did all the credit. For those of us who are lonely and alone, do you know what this teaches us? It teaches us that you will either find true love or you will find true love. You will have your celebration or you will have your celebration. The best is coming at the end. For those of us who are Christians, but in hearing this intention that God has for our lives, you're thinking, my life is feeling flat. I'm not experiencing the goodness of God in that way. You've lost sight of it. You've lost sight of what Jesus teaches us, that the best is coming at the end. That joy is waiting for us at the end. That goodness is waiting for us at the end. That love is waiting for us at the end. So right now, admit in the parts of your life where you're flat, you're empty. Jesus, I'm empty. I receive your love as a gift. You did all the work. I get all the credit. Thank you for loving me, and I worship you. And you're going to find that your joy begins to come back. Miracles are not a suspension of the natural order. They're a restoration of the world that God designed for us to live in. And I can't think of a better inaugural miracle for Jesus to do. To take a party falling flat and turn it into the best celebration those villagers had ever seen. Because that's what he's doing for us. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the scriptures. We thank you that we can read and study and see your goodness through the power and love and miracles of Jesus. I ask that for those of us who are feeling flat, who are feeling lonely, Father, I ask that we would experience your goodness and your love and your joy in rich measures in our life, and that we would see in this miracle a glimpse of the future that you have for us. So give us your hope, give us your joy, give us your spirit. And Jesus, we pray all of this in your name because you love us. Amen. Hey, thank you so much for being here this morning. If you would like prayer, you can come on down to the stage at the end of our time. It was a pleasure seeing you guys. God bless you.